Welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast, which is brought to you by Simpson Motorcycle Helmets. Without a doubt, Simpson has been my go-to helmet since 2016. Their iconic and aggressive style has set them apart from other brands. Simpson offers many different styles of helmets to fit your taste and budget. Head on over to simpsonmotorcyclehelmets.com to check out all the different options they have for you, and give these guys a follow on Instagram at Simpson Motorcycle Helmets. On today's episode, we have Matt Laidlaw. You probably know him from his awesome YouTube channel, also being a part of the Laidlaw Harley Davidson. He does a lot of great reviews, great videos, and great content out there, and I had a great time talking with this dude. And before we get into this episode, you know we got to check out these sponsors, so let's do that, and then we're going to jump right into it. Cowboy Harley Davidson is located in South Austin, and they are ready to help you get on the new bike you have been thinking about, or help you get your current bike dialed in with all the performance parts and upgrades you need. From service to sales and everything in between, check them out at cowboyharleyaustin.com and on Instagram at Cowboy Harley Austin. They have new 2023 bikes rolling in daily, so give them a call or head in and let them know that the Fast Life sent you. Our longest running podcast supporter, Lexin Moto, and our Bluetooth headset of choice here at the Fast Life since 2019, is still here providing you with one of the best Bluetooth headsets on the market, the G16, which I personally use on my motorcycle rides to check out everything from my favorite playlists to my favorite podcast. The battery life and sound quality is amazing on these headsets. Earlier this year, Lexin dropped the Smart Tire Pump, which became an instant everyday carry for many people on motorcycle trips. Well, now they have refined and taken the pump to new levels with the Lexin Smart Tire Pump Gen 2, which now offers an internal cooling fan, is 20% smaller in design, and can double as a portable charger while you're away from civilization. Pair these great products with some of the best customer service in the industry, and head on over to lexin-moto.com and drop the Fast Life offer code to save yourself 15% off your order. And don't forget to give these guys a follow on Instagram at Lexin Moto. If you have seen any of my personal bikes in person or on the gram over the past 6 years, you will definitely notice my ongoing support for Lucky Dave's. Their seats have always fit my ass perfectly and had the style profile I prefer in the 2-up seat game. I have ran the San Diego bars on my FXR and Dynas for years. Now I currently run the Peacemaker bar and riser series on my 2020 Road Glide. These bars are dope, with many options to customize the appearance, as well as get you dialed at the right height and hand position. I would go as far to say that the Lucky Dave's riser bar is one of the most comfortable bars on the market, no matter what risers you put them in. Check out all the options for your ride at luckydaves.com and give these guys a follow to stay up on product releases and inventory restocks on the gram at Lucky Daves.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
Golden,
let's do it.
hell yeah, man. So we tried to do this like pandemic time, didn't we?
I think so, yeah.
It's crazy it was that long ago, but I do remember trying to do it over the phone, and then just like bam, it kept being scheduled things, and I was like, screw it, man. We'll just catch it whenever we come out next time. Let me make sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you sticking with me. I thought, you're going to think that was like a big time flake or something, so.
No, I mean, I couldn't imagine what it must have been like in this business going through that time and trying to, restructure how do you run a business like this in that time frame, during the pandemic, trying to promote and sell motorcycles when you're not even really supposed to be here, you know?
Yeah, we're just lucky that we got classified as an essential service, being, repair, transportation repair, basically. Mm-hmm. A lot of the police officers around here, CHP, use motorcycles, and so you got to stay open for them to do their job. And I think other people, the regular civilian customer as well, who use their motorcycle to commute to work, mm-hmm. we were considered an essential business, thank goodness. So mm-hmm. we got to stay open.
Let me make sure the audio's good on this.
Yeah. Go for it.
Talk again?
Testing.
Yeah, let's put these up some. Sorry.
You good?
Actually, I'll put it all back the way you had it when we get it.
You could probably teach me a thing or two. I literally just took this out of the box and just hit record, and that's how I've done it the whole time. What's the compressor?
It's good, but it's kind of better to do a compressor in the program and then putting it in the original recording. Because if you put it in the record, it's basically compressing the file, the top and the bottom. You know, like on the audio files when you do like a video, you want to keep it between these two areas. It's kind of doing that pre-recording. Gotcha. So sometimes you want to leave a little bit of room to edit it in the deal here. But I think it'll be okay. You can always bring it up. At least for the sound of mine. That's how I've always been used to it, but I don't know. Nerd shit, basically.
I like it, man. Always trying to get better.
Dude, I'm trying to get on your level, man. Come on, dude.
I'm when it comes to the podcast, man, you got that thing dialed.
Man, I don't know if I do. I just think that it came, it just came naturally just because I'm inquisitive in this motorcycle industry and passionate about it, which is obviously the same thing with you and how you have carried your channel over these years. And that's what brings people to it because of like kind of like how you capture and show the world what you're seeing. You know what I mean? That's the unique thing about it, right? But no, with your channel, man, I've definitely done deep dives. Like your channel's always been the go-to when the models drop. Thanks, and man. Then you have all these other like angles that you do as well, as far as the rides, the different, the atmosphere, the culture behind it. And it's just a well-encompassing video. And I love your voiceovers because I feel like I just can't do the whole camera in my face thing right now. So I'm kind of taking a little bit out of your book with like doing the voiceover thing. And you got like a cool, like Barry White voice going on.
Thanks. I think if people saw behind the scenes, maybe they wouldn't be as impressed because some of those takes I do like 5 or 6 times to get it right. Make sure I don't make any weird like lip smacking noises. Make sure that the tone is right. Make sure that the speed in which I deliver the lines is right. So I do it like a lot, and just make sure that I get that one take that sounds just the way I want it to. And it's still not perfect. So
I know what you mean. That's exactly what I've been doing. And I write like a little script, and then I'll do it a couple times, and then I'm like, man, that feels too. And I'm still working on this. I'm in the beginning stages of this, and I start finding more natural words that I actually use because I write way more sophisticated than I talk.
All of us do.
Exactly. I don't even know how to spell them, but I know what I'm writing. But but so what? When you got into this, like this long family lineage in this Harley stuff, what compelled you to go down this route of creating videos, monetizing or not monetizing, but activating YouTube in a way to kind of use this as a,
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying, and I appreciate the question. So yeah, my family's been in this business now for 65 years. My grandfather, he worked here as a mechanic actually in Rosemead, and he then had an opportunity to buy the business. With the help of his dad, who sold some war bonds, and he bought the dealership for I think it was like $26,000 in 1958. Yeah, you can't even buy a CVO with that kind of money anymore. You can't even buy a Road Glide Special for that kind of money anymore. And then my dad and my uncle have worked here their entire lives as second generation Laidlaws. And then slowly but surely they introduced me to the business through coming here on Saturdays. When I was in grade school and high school and whatnot. But to answer your question, I wanted to bring something to the table, and I wanted to add something to the family business that I knew like my grandfather and my dad and my uncle couldn't bring to the business. Something that was unique to me that I could take the business to like the next level, and something that was relevant in like this day and age, this generation. And so, I just had this thought one day when I was, working at the dealership that. And this was back in like 2007. And I just felt like, it would be cool to like get some actual footage of people going, like me riding on my bike. And YouTube was just becoming a thing back then. And And I said, I wonder if there's like a camera that you can mount to your helmet. So I just went online, I Googled these camera, I Googled camera helmet cam.
I have had the pleasure of running Arlen Ness motorcycle products on my Road Glide and now Lowrider ST. From wheels to handlebars and everything in between, Ness has the parts to not only make your motorcycle look badass, but also perform better. A great place to start on your custom journey is with one of the 12 different custom air cleaners Ness provides, giving you options to fit your budget and taste. There is no shortage of killer products for you to enhance your motorcycle riding experience. Head on over to arlenness.com to see the vast parts catalog and drop Fast Life 10 in all caps to save yourself 10% off the entire website. And don't forget to give these guys a follow on the gram at Arlen Ness Motorcycles. Now let's get back to the show.
And, GoPro was like their very first one. It was like the GoPro Hero. It was like the GoPro number one. Yeah, and so I bought it and tried it out, and I just started messing around with cameras on my helmet, and I threw up, copyrighted music and got, the strike on my account like immediately for using copyrighted music. So it was a learning process, but then I did things very slow pace, but I started noticing other creators that were doing things like very regularly, and like they were like growing these massive followings. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, I wonder, maybe I could be like the motorcycle guy or the Harley guy on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And so like that was my goal from very early on, was let's see how if I'm able to make this a real thing with being the Harley guy on mm-hmm. YouTube. And so that was my goal. And I, at first I was kind of casual about the video creation and everything, but around 2014, 15, 16, that's when I started doing like every week I came out with like a new video, or I would try to. I made it more of a business, at that point.
What was some of that early content based around?
So if you go back to my earliest stuff was terrible, where I would just like walk around a bike, start it up, and just say, okay, this is a CVO convertible or whatever. And then I actually started making content that was circled around this fake alternative ego, where I called myself the old dirty biker. Did you ever see one of those videos before?
I think I saw it, but I think Shade Tree is still on that kick.
yeah. Shade Tree Surgeon's like the real life old dirty biker.
Yeah.
But that's funny you say that. But yeah, I for a while there I was like, okay, I'm gonna just have these satire style videos where I have like all the stereotypical biker stuff about myself. I put a beard on, and I was all about like the bro old dirty biker life basically, and just kind of gave some of that bro advice about bikes and things like that. I think my first video was how to ride a Harley. Yeah. And I want to say like 3 or 4 of those videos, and people laughed and everything, but I quickly realized it wasn't really sustainable. Where it's like, okay, every week I'm going to dress up as like, I have like these fake tattoo sleeves. I don't have any real tattoos. I'm pretty conservative, but I was like, you know what, this isn't sustainable. I'm going to just be myself, and I'm just going to put out content as Matt Laidlaw, just who I am, and ditch, the alter ego. And so, from then I was just like, okay, how can we educate people about Harley Davidsons? How can I help people find the right bike for them and just educate them so they make the best buying decision? And that was really the crux for the content, from there on out.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those deals where, if I think you had referenced the Adam Sandoval podcast I did a couple weeks ago, and one of the topics we talked about on there was you really want to try to create some kind of value for somebody to watch. You want to kind of solve a problem, create value. Not, there's nothing wrong with humor, but it still needs to be valuable, right? Totally. And when you're putting YouTube videos out, I mean, that's why, I guess why so many people, when they try to do vlogs, and they might fall on their face, because it's, it's interesting to watch someone's day in the life when they're doing something that has interest in it, right? But I don't know how interesting it is to watch someone, wake up, take a shit, right. Make breakfast, and then, all right, going to work. Like, that's just, I don't think that really fits the bill for everybody. I know there's an audience for that, but in this motorcycle world, and especially in the Harley world, I think that we're all, we're kind of, there's just so many different types of bikers, right? There's the guys that every day they're on the bike, and, especially out here in Southern California, when traveling on one, commuting on one is such a ideal way to get around. But then you got the Midwest and you got the North where it's like they're locked in for 6, 7, 8 months, and this content becomes value to them. It gives them connection to motorcycles in a way that magazines may have used to, but aren't really around to do. So,
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I feel like social media has totally replaced magazines. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know Jeff Holt or have talked to him much, but he, I had him on my podcast at one point, and he talked a lot about how, the magazine world has just kind of gone the way of the buffalo a little bit because people don't want to consume content via reading words anymore. People want to consume content on social media, on their phone. They always have their phone in their hand, and it's accessible at all times of the day. At any time of the day when you find yourself with 20 seconds of spare time, you pop it open and boom, go to Instagram or, go to, Fast Life Podcast or whatever it may be, YouTube, and you can just consume content in that spare amount of time that you have. So, yeah, it's social media has totally changed the world. That's for sure. The whole Web 2.0 has changed the game for a lot of people. Yeah,
I mean, anybody that's gone down the rabbit hole of understanding Web 2.0 and that model behind it and what they're predicting Web 3.0 to be or whatever, it's kind of I don't know how that's going to be a whole new thing, trying to find your way of how do you become that? How do you find a way to do anything similar to what you're doing now in that new world that I think is going to someday. I feel like we got some time, but if you ever jumped in the metaverse and you realize like this is not, I don't want to do this.
yeah, with the whole the glasses and the Oculus and all that stuff.
I don't know, but what's crazy is that sounds. It's like I can't regurgitate this right now, but I've heard people have really really good points as to like why maybe someone that's riding their bike and doing the helmet cam and the voiceover and we're doing this and this, why that's so resonating with some people,
I personally feel like things have evolved. I feel like for you to really get that watch time that all creators want and to get recognized and get the following that all creators want, you got to up your game now. Like the standard, the bar has been raised from just 5 or 6 years ago. I feel like 5 or 6 years ago, you have a decent setup, you have decent production quality with a helmet, mic, and you're going around riding, and you're just talking off the top of your head, whatever comes to top of mind. People were going to watch that because there weren't too many guys on a motorcycle that were uploading content like that. Now you've got everybody and their mom that buys a motorcycle doing that, and so now you've got to have something that differentiates yourself. You got to be the guy in the industry that knows how to paint really well, or the guy in the industry that travels who has a lot of experience that can share his knowledge to other people, or the guy who can talk bikes, and help people decide what bike to buy. So you have to have something else to where.
Would you say that it's gotten saturated enough to where you almost have to niche within the niche? Niche, how the hell they say that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not necessarily. I don't think you have to. I think motorcycles in and of itself is a niche topic, just because we're talking about 3% of the U.S. population ride motorcycles, so it's still a very small percentage of the whole population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder that because I consume a lot of video, like video production and photography content, and I actually lean more into that because I feel like sometimes when I get too inundated with the motorcycle content creators, and I feel like I might fall into like I don't know. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying that like as someone that rides a lot, sometimes it's a little bit too like surface level for me. And then what I don't want to do as someone that really wants to get into the space a little bit more in depth is I don't want to do it the way that they're doing it. And I feel like if I watch too much of that, then I'll fall into that. Oh, that's easy. I can do it that way, But then again, I mean, that's a caveat because, or a catch-22 or whatever, set analogy in the middle of that. I don't necessarily want to look like a video, a photography content creator either doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just want to find a unique way to do things that I think represents my brand and myself that would inherently make it different than everybody else's videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the skill there is watching other people's stuff and maybe being inspired by certain aspects of their videos and incorporating certain maybe filming techniques or narration techniques or whatever it may be into your videos, but, you know, putting your own spin on it. You know, I feel like every content creator kind of has their own technique or their own style, you know?
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
And, I mean, at least, because, I mean, there's definitely YouTubers that have inspired me to do things certain ways, and, like, I see, you know, just maybe a technique of transitions or flow of the video, and I tweak my videos a little bit. And on the other side, I've seen a lot of dealers across the country like use my formulas that I've had, and it's all good. You know, we're all kind of in this together. It's part of the game, and you know, so I think everybody just kind of inspires everybody.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And like I said, I wasn't trying to like imply that it's not good content. I just, you know, just being honest, like, for me, it's like there's a certain type of content that I'm probably looking for, and then certain people give me that fix that I need within it. And I don't know what that angle is with motorcycling yet, but, you know, like I said, you've kind of cornered the market on your end with being able to really give a very in-depth, you know, view of a bike or a model when it comes out, and so many different options, and even the way that you kind of open up a little bit on your videos about what aftermarket is on it and stuff like that. You know, I find that to be entertaining because I need to solve that problem. Like, I need to know more and more about this bike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of like, but you know, you see it like there'll be 100 press releases off of, or 100 videos about the new Lowrider ST and things like that. And so, you know, you go through a few and you make sure the audio is good. And if it's really crappy audio, you're like, I don't know if I can listen to this. Then you go and you know how it is. When there's 1,000 videos based on the same topic, you got to you look for that source that's pretty consistent, and you kind of just stick with it, because anybody knows how much time you can spend looking for a source on YouTube. It's like looking for something to watch on Netflix after you've, you know, been on spring break for a whole week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I find that, you know, by subscribing to certain channels that I've found to be very polished and still getting better. Within a world that I need to know, like I go to this guy for this information, I go to this guy for this information. You know what I mean?
Totally. And I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I got my guy. I mean, it sounds like you consume a lot of photography content. Your photography is awesome, by the way.
I appreciate it.
It's probably, that's actually how I first discovered you was, I want to say back in 15, 16, 17.
Yeah.
Just your Instagram and just like seeing some of the shots you do. I'm just like, dang, dude, like this guy.
I appreciate that.
He's got an eye. So, I think where I was going with this is, you know, I have my guys where I go where, hey, I want to become a better editor. I've got my guys that I know are going to deliver the information quickly, and I can get a new skill from them quickly.
Yeah.
But that's exactly how I consume YouTube content as well. So it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, I think for the guy getting into YouTube as far as a watcher, he's probably going to, you know, it could be overwhelming, right? And I think that I've learned this kind of by happenstance of just, you know, trying, and I say it all the time. I have a TV above where I airbrush and do my designs at. So I just, you know, man, I need to know what the difference of memory cards are. You know, what's all this mean? And bam, whole hour's worth of content about memory cards. I'm like, cool, I know that now. And then you know, you got the people you subscribe to when they drop videos, and you check them out, see what they're doing and whatnot. But you know, back to kind of like you and everything you've been doing. So as you start to, you know, curate or polish your channel to accommodate, you know, just to kind of solve a problem, give people information about stuff, what has been the most fun things for you to do? Has it been of all the different types of content you put out there, you know?
You know what really excites me is when a brand new bike comes out that I'm really excited about, like the Lowrider ST, for example, was a bike that I was super excited about. You know, some of these years when the new, like a CVO Road Glide would come out or something like that. The Breakout this year, I think is pretty cool. The Road
That was
Glide.
a good video. I watched that one of yours.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, that was exciting. That was a video that I was really excited to do. The Road Glide 3 was a really interesting bike that I was excited to do as well. And then the ride videos that I do when we go to, like, you know, a Western United States destination ride, like Yosemite or whatever it may be. And I get like my boys and we all go out and have a good time. And those videos are rad. I hate editing those videos just because
much.
Oh my gosh, I put in like, you know, 25 hours of edit time on some of those videos. But they'll always be there. They'll always be on YouTube. I can always go back and reference them to kind of relive those moments. And so it's worth it. And it's cool to see people, comment on them and, hey, you inspired me to get out there and ride more. And
thundermax is and has been my go-to for my fuel-injected Harleys since 2015. The T-Max module is designed to provide your fuel-injected Harley with proprietary auto-tune technology, allowing you the ability to add future performance upgrades to your motorcycle without having to go to a dyno for tuning. These tuners are worth their weight in gold. Head on over to thunder-max.com to get yourself dialed in with the T-Max tuner and drop the Fast Life offer code, which will save you 10% on your purchase, and give my guys a follow on the gram at thundermaxefi. Now let's get back to the show.
I get people from all over the world, coming in here and saying, hey, Matt, we love your videos. Because of it, we decided to go out to Zion and ride. And so that, kind of makes all the work worth it. So,
yeah. On that video that you just referenced, the breakout video, I literally watched that one before I left the shop to come out this way. And it wasn't just this bike and this, like a walk around the bike. There was like history of how Harley came to this bike, which I didn't know a lot of that stuff. I knew about the Rocker C and some of these other things, but like I said, it solved a problem, and it wasn't like they could have, when they announced that bike, everybody probably did a video and just said, oh, this is what and this is the specs, but you kind of added other context to it. Yeah, they kind of gave the video a lot more engagement to understanding its existence.
Yeah, and I've been trying to do that, and I actually did that at the start of my Lowrider ST video as well. And I feel like it makes it cool for me too. Plus, the people that are going to be buying that bike, they know where the inspiration and they know the evolution of how that bike kind of came to be. And I feel like it makes more and more like meaningful ownership experience when it's like, oh yeah, I got this Lowrider ST that was first the Nova project. At least that's where they got the concept for the fairing. Yeah. And it just makes it a more rich ownership experience because Harley has an awesome history. Yeah. I mean, it's the coolest history, I think, of any motorcycle company. Of course, I'm biased. And documented, yeah, thank you. And American, and so it just has all of the ingredients, just a really cool, formula to make these rad motorcycles. So, yeah, why not talk about it? Why not share it? And, I throw in probably, 10 to 15% of my opinion in there as well. And so, most of it's all factually, historically accurate, but at the same time, there are a couple little things where I make assumptions because I wasn't there, in the early 1980s when they bought back the company from AMF and just little things like that. So, it's fun. It's cool to do those types of little history insertions into the videos. Yeah,
to that same notion you just said about the Harley and the history, it's like anybody that's been to the museum knows how well they documented, like from day one, like one of everything, and they kept, or I mean, at least two of everything, and they kept one for, to have that kind of foresight at the beginning is got to be, I don't know, maybe they didn't have phones in their pockets and they were getting, inundated with all this other information, so they were able to stay the course and focus. But I had a blast walking through there, especially the upstairs, like the really old stuff, like the
Serial 1 bike.
Yeah, and like when the pinstripe brushes they'd have a couple like brushes from when they were, hand striping and lettering all the bikes. And, like I said, that first little row, like in through that little, right when you walk in the museum, there's just so much old history. And I was fortunate to, my first tour I ever got to do on there, I got to have one of the guys that curates a lot of the stuff in there be the guide, and he showed us like the archives and where they pull out of the drawers and got all the original T-shirts. And
so rad.
It's fucking insane.
I haven't seen that, by the way. That's awesome.
Yeah, I got lucky, man. I got lucky when I went there. I got to do a podcast with him, and cool. He's crazy story. He's a deadhead, so he traveled the country doing the Grateful Dead stuff back in the day.
Oh, cool. What's his name? I think I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember his name either.
I want to say it's Rob something.
Is he a Born Free guy, like a Born Free builder?
No, he's not a builder. He's an older guy.
Okay,
definitely older
guy.
Thinking
of somebody else then.
Yeah. Okay. But no, So, what about like your role within the dealership as you've kind of, where'd you start at as a young boy, and where have some of the steps you have gone through to get to here?
Yeah, so
my words aren't working today, dude. I'm sorry.
You're good. I know what you're saying. So I started off like cleaning the toilets and trimming the hedges, at our old shop in Rosemead days. Like my dad, literally started me off, from when I was just a punk teenager,
Yeah.
Just doing all the stuff that nobody else wanted to do. I mean, I've done everything. I've gone around, done dealer trades. I've been the errand boy to go pick up parts at other dealerships. I've done for a long time. I was in shipping and receiving, unload all the trucks, count the parts, stock them in. I did rentals for a long time. I did insurance for a long time. And then right around 2008 is when I started full time in motorcycle sales.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've kind of run the gambit around here. I've done pretty much everything besides like an actual technician. So I'm not a wrench, which I would love it if I was. I'd like to be able to say I was, but at the same time, I'm not going to lie about it. Like I don't work on the bikes. I have the guys work on my bike, and I mean basic stuff I'll do, but a motor change or
there's
bar
nothing
job.
wrong with that.
Yeah, I won't do that stuff. But
I've had the pleasure of doing some wrenching before, but I'm not necessarily worried if I never do it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is fun whenever you have a project, but I think that's a rad way to start doing this because you literally get to appreciate and understand every job within the dealership. And, I'm assuming that eventually this will be yours, or at least your generations or whatever you want to call it. And with that being said, like you'll just have an appreciation for each job within the dealership and a way to kind of, guide the other people that are going to be in those positions and also remember what it was like for you to be in that position.
Totally.
To want to be heard as well and be just a very fair kind of person to deal with in that space.
Yeah, I think that's the concept, and I think that's why some companies that's their mentality and that's kind of their process is hire within and promote people within because they've gone through the ranks, and to me that's the most valuable instead of just hiring some outside person to go right to the top. The people down below you don't really respect you because you haven't done their job, and so yeah, I'm glad and thankful that my dad kicked my butt on Saturdays when I always wanted to hang out in between school and brought me down here. So yeah, it's been good. I've been very, very blessed, that's for sure. I mean, to have a family that has a Harley dealership and have the opportunity to work here, like I consider myself extremely blessed. So
nice. One thing I did want to ask you, as somebody that's literally in Southern California, you're a prominent dealership here. How wild was it when they dropped the Softails and all the memes came out with all the Dynas and all that craziness? And how did it feel as a dealership that probably was pushing a lot of Dynas out of the shop?
Yeah. It's funny because I think I kind of helped perpetuate the whole like dumbfoundedness of what just happened at the dealer show. I mean, I remember like it was yesterday. It was across the street from Staples Center. The dealer show was actually in LA at LA Live, and it was at the Nokia Theater, I think. And yeah, I sat there in the auditorium with my brother next to me, and they were announcing all the models. And when they announced the new Softail frame, I was like, sweet, an update to the Softail. This is great. And they kind of, mingled it in there somewhere as well that, oh, by the way, all the Dynas are also going to be having this new Softail frame. We've merged the two families. But they didn't say it like that. And so after the show, my brother and I were just kind of looking at each other and be like, so is the Dyna gone? Like, I think they just got rid of the Dyna. So initially, I was kind of in shock still.
Yeah.
And then we went outside and they had a bunch of the bikes on the podiums in between the Staples Center and LA Live right there in downtown LA. And we were looking at them. It's like, oh, here's the Softail Fat Bob. Here's the Softail Lowrider, So these previously known as the Dyna model were now Softails. And it was like, wow, okay, this is very interesting. And then, all the memes about RIP Dyna and everything, and Harley's so stupid because they got rid of, the model that was speaking to the more youthful crowd, and, this great selling Harley Davidson that's in touch with this new counterculture within the Harley Davidson world. Harley axed it. They're so out of touch. And I heard it all. And I, to a certain degree, I felt that as well. And then I wrote it. And then it's like, like Harley nailed it. And this is a lighter bike, a better performing bike. Just every measurable way, this bike is just a better performing bike than the Dyna was. Does it have the two external shocks, that kind of gave it that iconic Dyna look? No, but if you can get past that, then it's a better bike.
Dude, the memes were ruthless back then with that stuff. And And it was just exciting to watch. And I remember it very, very closely because we had started this podcast like in January of 18. So right when the models started to really, you could get your hands on them for the most part. And, you know, I just remember us talking about it a lot on the podcast. I remember one of my friends ended up picking up one of the guys that ride quite a bit, and he's a pretty good rider. He's like, man, it rips. It's fast. It's like it's got the M8 motor. Because I remember the public were so stoked about the drop because everybody thought the M8 was going to come into the Dyna. You know,
yeah.
A lot of people were anticipating an update with the motor because we were like, oh, well, Harley's going to drop it into the touring line, and then it's going to transcend into the other ones, and then the whole new change, and it was just like everybody's mind's just blown. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I mean, they know the sauce, man. They really do. I mean, I wouldn't get their logo tattooed on me for nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was a very interesting time, and it was definitely a hot topic. You know, we talked about it a lot with, you know, guests here and things like that. But, yeah, I think there's a couple things that maybe they could have done better. Maybe the naming of everything, because
For sure.
the Dyna guys were so anti-Softail. It's like, oh, you're a softie, you know, you're a Softail. And now to call the lowrider a Softail, it was just like, oh, everything about their culture. It just, so maybe they could have named it differently. I don't know what they could have done, but I think at the end of the day, if you can get past the name, like I said, you know, we both know that it was just the engineers knew what they were doing. You know, maybe the marketing guys didn't know what they were doing. You know,
I got it. Softail. It's like, no. But you know what the crazy thing is, and I'm speaking a little bit I'm just kind of spitballing here, but it feels like it really hurt the Softail culture, the actual Softail line, the people that were in that world. It seemed like it took away kind of like their vibe of that kind of, you know, you'd see them old like beach cruiser style or even the Vikla style. It's like, even now you really don't see a lot of Viklas within the Softail line. It's usually like they just get an older twin cam. So I know they do it. It's with a grain of salt that I'm saying this, but you know, I feel like it hurt that line more than it, and it just literally propped the Dyna side of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. I think you're right. And I think, you know, speaking upon what you said about the whole Vikla scene, because the Vikla scene, I mean, Laidlaw's Harley Davidson is the capital of the world when it comes to the Vikla scene. Like, that was like our bread and butter for years. I mean, we're East LA, you know? And so I think a lot of it has to do with just parts availability and the ease of creating the new Softail chassis into a Vikla style bike. You know, there was just so many parts out there for the Softails. Well, then you have all these exhaust problems now with like everything's illegal exhaust. So it's hard to get anything into California.
Yeah.
And let's be honest. I mean, there's Viklas in other parts of the country, don't get me wrong. But Southern California, LA, like this was like the birthplace of it. And so, you know, you take away our ability to install Simpson fishtail duals, you know. I mean, there's other pipe manufacturers now that do it on the new Softail frame, but there's just a lot of little things where it was just harder to do it to the new Softail chassis. But yeah, I've never really heard someone say it like you, where they've kind of lost, the Softail kind of lost their identity as this unique appendage to the Harley Davidson lineup. But yeah, I mean, maybe you're right to a certain extent, because now the previously known as Dyna models, like your lowrider, like Lowrider S, those make up the bulk of the sales now in the Softail family for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you've always had your fat tire family, you know, your V-Rod guys that were, you never know if they're really from Europe or not, because it's like, where does this fit in? But it's always seemed like they had to keep something like that around for what I would probably suggest is the smallest demographic in that space, even though like it feels like there was a lot of V-Rods on the road at one point in time. Like a lot, you know what I mean? And but I think a lot of people bought them because of the hype of a new motor, power, and, you know, and when they came out, that kind of stance was kind of like the norm, I guess you'd say. I mean, they were used to that through all the chopper world stuff and how awkward they would look on bikes. They're like, this is the look that I have to look like this on a bike.
Right.
This is what's cool. So it made sense. And I think the other thing that I think I've heard with the newer Softails is they're just not able to get them low enough to fit the Vikla style. Like the shock, it just won't allow it to go low enough or something like that.
I mean, yeah, that could be. When the Softail Deluxe, the 18 model year Deluxe came out, one of our main builds that we wanted to do was we wanted to do a Vikla build on the new Softail. And I'm trying to think of the suspension company. Maybe it was Legend or something like that. Made an air shock for the the new monoshock for the Softail, and it definitely dropped it. But I don't think I've ever seen one that like dropped it completely to the frame, like you see some of these hardcore vehicle guys do. So yeah, maybe you're right there. But yeah, I agree with you, because it just goes back to parts availability of being able to do what these customers want to do, and just there wasn't all the pieces to the puzzle available for those new Softails.
Now I got to touch on the fact, like you guys kind of did these. I want to know the story behind it, because it really was badass. The Coast Glides, when those came out, like it was, I think you based them off of the Sport Glide platforms.
Yeah, FXRT,
right?
Absolutely.
And man, like when the Sport Glide came out, I was stoked. Like one of my closest friends bought one, and I love the back still to this day. It was crazy because when those came out, we noticed that the links of the bags were off, but it was like, well, function over form in that aspect. And then like we all got used to it. We're taking Sport Glide bags, putting them on lowriders, putting them on fat bobs and all this stuff. And then when they dropped the lowrider ST and everybody lost their mind, like this just happened. It was kind of a strange little place to be. But on those Coast Glides, like how did that project come about?
So the Coast Glide is definitely one of our shining moments in our history of our dealership that we're really proud of, definitely. But Harley Davidson, they decided to do this competition among dealers called Battle of the Kings. And so, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, you know what? We know how to build bikes, and we know how to build cool bikes that people, want. And by the way, there's this bike that we think Harley Davidson should definitely build, and we're gonna make this a proof of concept where, hopefully, we can have the designers or whoever is listening see this bike, and hopefully perpetuate this idea. And so yeah, we built it off of a Sport Glide platform, like you said, using those bikes. And then we used a Russ Wernemont FXRT replica fairing and put it on there. And we did a bunch of other stuff, pipe, and we used some Harley Davidson foot and hand controls and things like that, and got our cool painter, Seth at Aggressive Design, to paint it. But anyways, yeah, it's funny because the guys from Canada, the dealership up there, I think I can't remember the dealership's name in Canada, but they built a bike very similar as well. And so there were definitely a lot of people out there that wanted this style. Yeah. And, come to find out that Harley was kind of working on the ST already behind the scenes. Yeah. But I feel like our Coast Glide further solidified the proof of concept that this is what people wanted. And I think probably inspired them to, get even more of a green light to go ahead and release this into the market. So if nothing else, I feel like the Coast Glide was something that inspired Harley or the engineers to move forward with the project. I'm not saying that we did it or we need all the credit or anything, because no, it was all Harley. And let's be honest, the FXRT fairing was Harley Davidson from the early 80s, and we were just gleaming off of that, and making it more of a modern look for the Coast Glide. So
there was definitely like a need for another touring option with Harley that wasn't a full 100%. Road Glide, Street Glide, Road King. And the Sport Glide seemed like it was going to be an option, but then when you saw the forward controls, the fairing that looked like a bikini bottom, and
did nothing for you, really.
It's just like it barely covered anything. So it was
a missed opportunity.
It was.
I said that in a lot of my videos, like the Sport Glide, it was kind of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and it got to a point where we were all hunting all the people that didn't really give a shit about the bags that were selling them. We found some people selling for like $1,000 in like 2018, 2019, and that's why all my buddies that most of the guys that ride with me across the country are on Softails, and everybody has Sport Glide bags.
Yeah,
and they're functional. They look good. They kind of flow with the more modern styles of the bike. And
totally.
When the ST came out, it was just like, man, this is it. This is like the perfect in between. If you don't quite want the bulkiness of a bagger, fast as hell.
Yeah. Especially
now with the 117s in them, or I mean, at least I'm used to like the low riders that we'd get the bags and throw the RT fairings on it, kind of similar to how you did the Coast Glide. So Yeah, it's been a wild one, man. Like seeing how all this is evolving and whatnot.
Yeah, and again with the Coast Glide, we didn't really do anything that hadn't been done before. I think we polished it in a good way and kind of packaged it.
Y'all were kind of the first ones to do that. Because, I mean, you saw a few ones, but you didn't see any finished bikes like that, really.
Yeah, there were RT fairings, like you said, out there that people were bolting up to Dynas and things like that. But, we definitely, with, the social media presence that we have and how much publicity got through Harley Davidson posting it as well, I feel like ours was kind of the most polished, especially on the new Softail chassis with those bags. With all the publicity it got, I feel like, that was kind of one of the main bikes that propelled that style kind of into mainstream,
For sure.
But, it's funny. A lot of the bikes you're referring to, I see on your Instagram, I think you guys did like a photo shoot, like Monument Valley or something like that. Yeah, a lot of, I assume that you painted most of those bikes in your crew?
Yeah, that's a requirement. They can't have another paint job and be in my crew.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, those guys they're good in that, some of those bikes I had a lot of help with customizing and building, air quotes, building for them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them they took the initiative, they did it in their garage and whatnot, and everybody's got a pretty unique bike. I mean, one of the guys had literally ordered the ST, picked it up in North Carolina, rode it to our camp out, left the camp out, brought it to my shop, and we had to bars, exhaust, everything we could, paint it before the beginning of June because that's when we went on that trip. So we had I think Hot Dog and Chip and them at San Diego Customs beat us by being one of the first painted STs out there.
Okay. By
mere a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just finally posted it, and ours were done too, but we weren't ready to post it yet, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we rode it across. He put 10,000 miles on it in that month because he rode with us, and then he went back because we split off. Me and one other friend split off in Boise and came back to California and spent a whole month out here doing podcasts and went to Born Free. Well, he went home on the ST and was like, "Man, I want to go out there and keep doing this with them." So he just he's oil filled, so they're on and off all the time. So he just rode back out here solo, did the whole Born Free thing with us, and then went back home and 10,000 miles on that bike within a month.
Dang, nice. So he had that bike at the last Born Free in 2022?
It was it was in the Clockworks area booth.
Okay.
So it was cool.
Interesting.
I mean, and I rode it, and I felt like it was a bike I definitely could see myself getting, but I wasn't quite sold on it yet. But after another, couple more trips across, running around, I kind of was just like I was saying earlier, I'm just kind of bored with the baggers right now. Not that I don't love them, and I don't think I can live without one, but I just want a new experience, and I feel like that ST can provide that kind of solve the problem of I need to be able to take all my crap with me, but it's just it's small, it's fast, it's a little bit more agile than a bagger's going to be, and it's different, So I'm excited, but I'm nervous because that's going to be my main bike to travel on this year.
Yeah.
So I hope I like it as much as I think I hope I will. So.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't got to tell you about how they ride. I'm sure you've ridden it a million times, but yeah, I mean, they look good with the Chop Tour Pack on the back as well.
That's the thing. One of my friends had the Tour Pack, and we were riding. I was like, kind of like it because I hate Tour Packs on my bagger.
Really?
It just throws me off somehow. And then my Tour Pack's full of camera gear, so it's if I want to take a good picture on the coast, I'm trying to click it off, and it's just so heavy. I'm throwing my back out. I'm getting old as shit and drink too much. So, what do you think is of all the bikes that you've got to kind of mess with? What's been your go-to and setup wise? What's your vibe? I mean, you're a tall guy too. So, are you a forward control guy? You like a little bit of mids, forward mids? Where are you at?
I like the touring bikes the way that they're set up.
Yeah.
It's nice if I can get a seat that sets me back a little bit. Like my Street Glide I have right now, I have a 2018 Street Glide, the white one, and it's set up pretty much how, my ideal bike would be set up. So, I got about 14-inch bars on there, a seat that brings me back a couple inches. But I like the touring floorboards and pretty much the stock touring setup. But to answer your question, yes, give me a Street Glide or a Road Glide Special that's set up for my height, and I'm super happy. When we go on our long trips and stuff, I have my Chop Tour Pack that I put on there.
Yeah.
And between that and my saddlebags, I can carry all my camera equipment and gear and everything. I also have my Pan America that I bought a couple years ago. And so that's fun if I want to mix it up and have like a go fast ripper bike or maybe go in the dirt a little bit.
How'd you like that one that was at the dealer show that they put the Road Glide fairing and the Sport Glide bags on it? Did you see that?
I think I've seen pictures of it. Where was that at?
I think it was at the drag dealer show in like Madison or Louisville or somewhere where they do that at.
Gotcha. I wasn't there.
Dude, I didn't see it in person. I just saw the pictures and I was like, I could ride that. I could definitely ride that.
Yeah. I think I remember seeing pictures of it. I don't know exactly what my final judgment was on the thing.
You'd probably have to be able to do a walk around and see the proportions of it.
Exactly.
To get and I should probably hold my judgment for that too. But how do you like the Pan America as far as like have you taken it off road? I mean, I know you grew up running around in the desert on dirt bikes and stuff. So
yeah. We've done some pretty easy off road trips. We went to like Big Bear. We've done Joshua Tree. Done a couple other. I've done like the Rawhide training course. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys, but so I've done some nothing like too hardcore. Stuff that's like well within my ability level. But it's cool. It's good to mix it up, and it's just the concept of being able to roll out of your garage on a bike and then take it to the dirt and play in the dirt on it is great because before I had the Pan America, it was like, okay, load the dirt bikes in the back of a truck, go out to the desert and ride them. It's just everything involved with doing that just made the trip take longer, more preparation, more equipment. And on the Pan America, you can't quite do as technical as stuff on dirt bikes, but at the same time, you're still in the dirt and you can challenge yourself if you want.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm not a dirt guy, man. I wish I was. I grew up in Texas. All the land's owned.
Yeah, well, we have a similar problem in California, but no, I mean, there's still places that you can go get out of town and get in the dirt, but
you pretty much got to go to a track,
Really?
And you got to sign all the waivers, obviously, and then, at the track, it's like going to the skate park. There's just there's really experienced people out there, and you feel like you're in the way. It's just not something like growing up. It just didn't seem ideal. You know what I mean? But if I was growing up and my family was taking me to the desert and we were camping out there and riding around on dirt bikes and all that stuff, like that'd be a different experience. You'd be able to, you have all this space to kind of go wipe out and make little jumps and all that mess, and it just become more familiar. So I grew up on the street. So when I get in the dirt, I'm like, I'm not used to that uncontrolled chaos.
Totally.
Or that controlled chaos, if you will. So,
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a different experience when you have no traction ever.
Yeah, for sure. You got to trust the bike or trust what it does more or less anything. So what's your setup, man? Like when you run and you do these videos and travels and stuff, are you a GoPro guy? Do you do like any other camera stuff with it, or what do you do?
Yeah, so like I have my main camera, which is a Canon R6. I got that like a year or two ago.
Finally, another Canon guy. Thank you.
You been running to the Sony guys?
Sony guys, dude. We got to get them. We got to get them on Indians, dude. Get them away from us.
Now you're speaking my language. I like you. So yeah, no, I'm diehard Canon. I'll never switch out of them. I love Canon. But I've got that camera, and obviously I'm diehard GoPro. I've owned every single GoPro they've ever made, actually, except for the Max. I don't have a Max.
Yeah.
But yeah, between those two, and then I've got a drone. I've got a Mavic 2, and I've crashed it once. I crashed my regular Mavic, which is now in pieces. But yeah, between the GoPro, my Canon, and the Mavic, that's pretty much what I shoot everything on. I do a lot of external recording as well, with like an external recorder for like audio for exhaust and stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the bulk of everything I do.
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do it, man. Cause I got an R5. It's my main, for photography. I thought about getting an R6 to do more of the video stuff, just to get dedicated. Like this is like first world problems, but I just hate having to switch to video and back. I'd rather have everything ready to go and this ready to go. But I can't swing that right now. Another $2,000 camera, body to go along with all the other stuff. So, it's just like I've done a couple little vlog things on GoPro, but everything that I would do with my camera, when I try to do it in the GoPro, it just doesn't work. Like using ND filters, trying to like manually control settings and then different lighting situations, it always just becomes kind of messy. And I think I'm a little bit more, I'm hard on myself through photography, and I'm wanting to emulate photographic looks through my video, and I'm just not there yet.
Yeah,
skills.
I can tell right away, just in the short amount of time we've been talking to each other, like you're a guy that, I mean, just looking at your photography, like you have a very high standard of how things should look and how you want things to look. So you're probably very hard on yourself creatively. And if you do that, and I'm the same way to a certain extent, my editing time has like tripled because everything's got to have the right adjustment layer on top of it.
Yeah.
And I got to shoot everything in log now, where I got to color correct everything. And it's gotten out of hand. So, you know, straight out of camera, as hard as this is for a perfectionist like yourself, straight out of camera stuff on like the GoPro 10 and I'm sure the 11. I don't have an 11 actually.
I have a 10. That's what I'm using. Yeah.
So straight out of camera is pretty dang good.
Okay.
And so I feel like that's going to meet the production standards that most people viewing your content are going to be looking for. But yeah, you're right. You can't fine tune with the small little sensor that a GoPro has and like all the digital color correction behind the scenes that GoPro does. It's hard to really fine tune it and make it do what you want it to do. It's just kind of you hit the power button and you point it. And I feel like, you know, I do very little color correcting on GoPro.
Nice. Yeah. I was wondering, man, because like I guess, you know, when you see someone else's stuff, even though, like you said, you're doing something, but I see yours and I'm like, that looks fucking amazing. I love that. If I could do that, then you tell me that it's like you're just using the normal settings and stuff, the out of box settings, if you will. I'm like, why is it that when I look at yours, I can look at it with appreciation, but with mine, I just have this like, ugh, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's weird.
I think we're always just more critical of our own stuff, to be honest. But
yeah, it's tough, man. I guess the only thing that I've really enjoyed about maybe going down this path and trying to get more into is, first off, getting to talk to guys like you, even nerding out a little bit about this kind of stuff has been, you know, more interesting to me than motorcycles as of like the last year and a half. But at the same time, it's like it's still the motorcycle, right? It's still like it's within the motorcycles. Like, we want to be better at shooting photos of our bikes and capturing video of the things around motorcycles. So,
well, you probably talk motorcycles more than anything. And so when you find someone that is also a content creator, it's kind of like, okay, let's talk about things that I don't always talk about, you know?
Yeah, because, I mean, there's plenty of people at Bike Night that ride bikes that I can talk to every night, but there's not as many people that are, you know, that we can nerd out on color correction and log and C-log and, you know, just all this kind of mess, you know. And yeah, it's kind of one of those things that, like, what I've been really wanting to do, and I'm sure that you guys might do this out here quite a bit, but I want to try to put together like a ride with it, like 3 or 4 dudes, and everybody's a videographer, photographer thing, and we just do like a week-long trip or a 3 or 4 day trip, and just focus on videoing, getting content, getting shots. Because you know how it is, like when you're videoing, it's like you want to, you know, you're a slave to the sun almost. You want to be in the right spot at the right time of day, and, you know, it's kind of hard. You know, you got to be around a lot of people that are willing to also want to be there in that moment, because it's waking up early, it's going to bed, not going to bed early, but, you know, catching that sunset, that sunrise, and utilizing those 3 or 4 hours that you have there to kind of capitalize on the most shots. And the other thing is, like, you can focus on shooting other people because other people are shooting you. And so you finally have content of yourself. Which is the other curse of being a photographer or any of that.
You got to start training some of your crew guys, man. Like, I've got 3 of my guys that are also salesmen here at the dealership that are super into it, that I hand them a GoPro. And then, you know, Nick, who's our finance guy, he's got an R5 and he's super into it as well. And so he's always shooting content. In fact, the last video I posted on my channel about the Pan America, he shot and edited that entire video.
Oh, dang.
And so, you know, 95% of my stuff is all edited by me, but he once in a while puts out a video for me. And so, yeah, you just got to find those guys and, you know, get them in your crew and just.
Yeah, let me ask you about that. Don't you, I think me and Adam kind of touched on this too, but with everybody that wants to start their own channels, do you think it might be worth people trying to collaborate or work within someone else? You know, like almost like the apprenticeship thing. Like, hey, let me come to you and help you create videos, and it'll give me all the tools and skills I need to eventually get on my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe not work. I mean, I'm not trying to say free labor, even though I ain't making any money doing that to give anybody. But if you want to make videos, you know, like maybe this guy's better. He's trying to do it, and he's better at being in camera So let me go be the video guy for this. It's a weird thing. I think sometimes with it, you have to accept that when you're behind a camera, you're not in front of a camera. So you have to accept that role, that you're the guy that's capturing, not the star of the show sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a fine balance because like for your channels and your socials and stuff, I mean, you are the star of the show.
With over 20 years in business, Custom Dynamics has built the largest product selection in the motorcycle lighting game. Superior lighting products supported by top quality customer service, all backed by lifetime warranties. I'm currently running Custom Dynamics all around on my Lowrider ST. Head on over to CustomDynamics.com where they have solutions for both early and late model motorcycles, and give them a follow on the gram at Custom Dynamics.
And so, people want to see you, people want to hear from you. I mean, you are the expert of your channel. So, but I think it just depends on the context of the video as well.
Okay, yeah.
Like for example, if you're out on a road trip, people want to see and hear everybody talking about their bike, what they're riding, how they're feeling. And so, maybe it's some of the more of the selfie situation, of yourself. Yeah. But yeah, my advice would be get at least one other core guy that is willing to, like, it's an understanding at the beginning of the trip that, here's a GoPro and you're filming and you need to, hit that record button in key moments and get shots of me going down the highway.
Yeah.
You got to find that guy. But, we actually just did a collaboration with 2 Lane Life back in December, and I mean that was just a treasure trove of content where you had 2 Lane Jay,
Yeah.
So
as soon as I walked in the shop a while ago, I went straight to 2 Lane to Jay's office and said, "Hey, I got a couple questions in Premiere." And he's like, "What you got?" I was like, "Titles and graphics. I need to know how." You know what I mean? He started showing me some things, and I could literally nerd out with Jay. If I could just have a sleepover with him. We'll just build a fort and put our laptops in there and just go to town and stuff. It's like kind of what I wish we could do.
Yeah, he's good. And the thing about Josh is he's progressing rapidly too. Like
every day he's editing though, shooting and editing.
Well, and you got to have that mentality of wanting to learn too. Like for me, I feel like I've plateaued a little bit where, I feel like I have a good production value, but I don't spend that much time like learning new transitions and learning new title work. And so a lot of the effects you see in my videos are pretty similar, but if I feel like every drop, Josh is like adding some new flair to his videos, like this new polished layer or something. And so he's going to be one of the best editors in the game in the next 10 years for sure.
Yeah, he's probably going to go start working in Hollywood, to be honest with you.
Probably.
I'm trying to get him to, leave those guys and come to Texas.
Well, yeah, it's funny because you're not the first guy that has said that to me. Real? There's other guys that run, creative outlets in the motorcycle industry that have said like, yeah, if I can just get that guy on my team. So
yeah,
Lance and Galen, you better take really good care of that guy. Because he's worth his weight in gold for sure.
Lance and Galen are definitely the best guys to work for if I was going to work for somebody, though.
For sure.
Yeah, they were telling me like that trip that y'all went on, like how, they had to wait on you because you guys had to work here until closing time to get out and catch them down the road.
Yeah, I mean they took off. They didn't wait for us, but that's the problem with riding with us is like everything, because so many of my guys that I ride with all work here, and so everything we do we have to fit into time when we're not all open. And so everything's just kind of a whirlwind 2.5 day trip for us usually. But
you can do a lot in 2.5 days if you stay on the course, man, especially here. I mean, you do a 1,000-mile radius other than the ocean, like you're hitting a lot of really, really cool things.
Totally.
What is it to Zion from here?
I want to say it's like 400 miles.
That's it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too bad. 450 maybe, something like that.
That's wild. I left Sacramento yesterday morning at 8, hungover, and then drove down here in the rain, which added like an hour to it because just how much that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Got to Venice, said hi, went to Hawthorne to do the Arch podcast, wrapped that up at 7, then went to Long Beach to have dinner with Jordan from Hot Bike Magazine, and then made it back to the house at 11, and then got on Instagram for about an hour and then crashed out. And that's been my day for like the last 3 or 4 days. It's been like a 400 or 500 mile day, podcast, and then try to connect with, try to stay, active and on the social while I'm on this trip to, maximize it and stuff like that. But
dude, you're grinding, man. You're hustling. That's a lot of work. Kudos.
With being a painter and everything still, it's like you're just juggling a lot. And I imagine that's kind of one of the things I want to lead into with you, with all your job titles here and the things that you have to take care of here. How hard is it to kind of be in this space of creating content, knowing how time consuming it is?
It's hard, but because of, the nature of this business and the content I make, that actually makes it easier in some ways. But yeah, it's a big juggle because when I edit, I usually edit on Thursdays. It's like a designated day that I have to do like digital marketing, which is basically my YouTube. But, on a Sunday afternoon or when the kids go to bed or whatever, I'm editing. And so a lot of my free time I spend editing. If I don't finish, a project and when we're closed on Mondays, I'll edit. And so it's, I work a lot like a lot of people do. And it's something that's constantly on my mind as a content creator yourself. I'm sure you're always like, okay, when's my next video? When's my next podcast going to drop? How am I going to promote it on Instagram? And so that's constantly in the back of my head at all times too. Oh, I'm going out of town, with the family for a week. Oh, I'm not going to have a video ready. It's like this constant stressor.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, when I'm here at work, just doing my everyday duties, I can take 2 or 3 hours and film a video because I'm here in the shop anyways. And so in that aspect, it overlaps my 9 to 5 duties. And so, it's a huge advantage I have working at a dealership because I have access to so many things that a lot of moto creators don't have access to. But to try to fit it all in on an already full-time job and then to add that extra layer of a full-time YouTube channel, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Do you have like a schedule you try to keep with YouTube as far as like weekly drops or, things like that?
I try to do one video a week, and I usually post on Thursday night or Friday morning, although even that, once in a while, I'll deviate from. But I usually do 4 videos a month is typically what my schedule is.
I see some people out there, like I think at one point Sandoval was doing 1 a day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Some Casey Neistat stuff. I was like, I don't know how he came to the shop one time and did a video at the shop with me when he was on that stuff. He had a big Sprinter van and a whole crew with him. I was like, damn, Adam.
I remember when he was doing that. That was back in like 16.
It was
17,
19 actually.
Oh, really? Okay,
it was 19.
Maybe I'm thinking when he had that bus. I mean, there's a time.
Yeah, the bus was different. That was before I met him.
Okay,
so I met him in 18.
Okay,
in 18, I went right when he bought the campground. I met, there was this really awesome chick, Giselle. She had an FXR. She was riding all over the country, and she was actually doing social media for American Flat Track.
Okay.
And I asked her to do the podcast. She rode through. She said she was going to work for Adam for a couple months before she went back to Florida. She's like, you got to go meet this dude, Adam. He's a really good dude. I was like, all right, I'll come up there. Met him, did the podcast with him, and stayed there and camped. And then next thing you know, we were hosting our first camp out a month later there. And since then, me and Adam have just kind of stayed in that relationship. Like, he makes the campground better. We bring people there to party. And then about every year and a half, we'll do a podcast together to kind of recap what he's doing. So we went and did the one because of the 120 dealerships. Is he coming out here to see you guys?
No. And it's not because I wouldn't want him. I would welcome here anytime. In fact, he actually came here when he visited every dealership in the country. I still to this day remember him showing up with Scooter at our dealership, and I didn't know who he was. That's the first time I'd ever seen him and ever met him. But yeah, when he showed up here, nobody knew who he was. Yeah. So, but yeah, besides that one time, we've never crossed paths before. But I like what he does, I mean, he does a lot of good stuff for the motorcycle community. I love everything he does for, the veterans and stuff. I think he's just a cool all-around dude. Again, we don't have like a close relationship or anything, but I like what he does for sure.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Yeah, man. How do you, like, with so many things that go on here in LA, like, how do you guys know when to fit in, like, y'all's brand into it, as far as, like, with events like Born Free and all these, current build campouts, like, and said many different events that go on here? How do you kind of figure out where you want to kind of place the brand in any of this stuff?
Well, when you say brand, are you talking about like our dealership, like Laidlaw's Harley Davidson brand? Well, a lot of that is dictated by just rules of Harley Davidson,
Oh,
actually,
shit,
believe it or
yeah.
not. Yeah, like every dealership has like their designated area or their designated territory, and you can't really do any events or promote your dealership physically in other people's areas. And so if there's an event that's in our area, great, we'll try to get involved. But like Born Free, for example, like I'm pretty good friends with Mike, and so I wish we could be more involved down there, but that's Orange County Harley Davidson's territory. So for us to go down there and Laidlaw's Harley Davidson booth and stuff like that, like we can't do it.
Oh shit.
So, you know, we get involved in other ways. I go down there, you know, I've done a ton of videos at Born Free. We've had bikes there. You know, this last year we were a Harley Davidson invited builder, and we did the Overglide. I don't know if you saw that Road Glide.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a cross between a Road Glide and a Pan America, basically. Yeah. And so we did that bike, but you know, you kind of have to pick and choose, and a lot of events, unfortunately, are on Saturdays when I'm here working, and so I don't get to go to them. So, you know, I go to the things that I'm able to. Born Free is on a Sunday when we're closed, so I usually always go down to Born Free. That's by far my favorite local event.
It's badass.
Yeah, so, yeah, we do what we can.
That's cool. Yeah, man. As far as like the content too, and you know, back on that, because while I have you, how do you? I mean, have you ever like wanted to dabble in other areas of content, like videoing and creating content for stuff, like any other types of genres, or I don't even know if that's the right word, just scenes? Yeah,
that's an interesting question. I've thought about it for sure. I've thought about just doing like power sports stuff, like family. Because I got 3 kids, and I love going out to the desert with them and getting them on like little dirt bikes. And I've thought about getting into the whole side-by-side thing. I don't own one right now, but I've thought about maybe doing like a power sports family-oriented channel. But it's just, I don't have enough time, you know? It's just, I've already got so much on my plate. And with the content I make that's Harley Davidson related, it serves so many purposes for me. It builds up the dealership brand. You know, so many people come in here as a result of seeing the channel. We just had a guy today, you know, came in, hey, I love all your guys' videos you do. I love all the trips. I watch all your guys' trip videos and stuff. And it's like he was already a customer because he had this built-in trust after watching all the videos, and we were a trusted resources of information. And so that, I mean, that's just one aspect that has been like a value add for the YouTube channel. Yeah. The fact that I'm sitting here right now with you, you know, you wouldn't be here if I didn't have a YouTube channel, you know, and I was this, you know, this Harley Davidson personality online, you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's just so many, and I'm sure you've come across the same thing where you've met people as a result of your media work that you do.
Exactly. And it you know, it might sound, you know, kind of like mean or something like that, but it's not. It's like, you know, when you put yourself in these arenas, then those kind of opportunities come. You can't expect, you know, anybody to care about your opinion about the motorcycle culture if you haven't, you know,
established yourself as a reputable source.
Earned your opinion almost, you know.
Totally.
It's one of those things. I get it. But yeah, that makes sense. I mean, my mind's constantly racing with ideas of what I would like to do. But then Father Time kicks in. Is like, yo, man, like, you got to paint a bike today. You can't do all this stuff today. I would sometimes try to do what you said, like how you designate Thursday to work on videos. I would try to do that sometimes and just designate it. And it's like, I guess it's from my creative like standpoint of the way that I operate. I don't really have control over my creativity. I can't force it in. And so even when it comes time to like make videos, like I can't say, all right, at 6 p.m., we're going to go do this little shoot real quick. It's like not there all the time, you know? And it happens with photography. You would think it's all the same stuff. Click, get the lighting, bam, click and do it. And like, why is this not working right now, you know?
Yep.
So it's a weird thing.
Dude, I get creative block when I'm editing all the time. Like I'll like sit there and think about the same like 3 seconds of video sequence for like an hour, you know? And it's like, okay, this isn't quite the right music. And I think that just goes back to being just the biggest critic of yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you do a lot of creative stuff. I mean, my normal day job here is just, you know, it's kind of work that you don't really have to think too much about, at least for me. You know, you talk to the customer, you get them on the right bike, you sell the bike, and yada, yada. But creative stuff, like that takes a lot of mental capacity, especially when you're already operating at such a high level to then continue to hit that benchmark or increase the benchmark, like that's a lot on your end. I mean, as a painter, you do helmets too, right?
Mainly helmets these days. Only about 9 bikes a year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I love your work in the helmets and everything.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm going to hit you up one of these days, and obviously I don't want anything for free. I'm going to pay you, but I want you to do a helmet for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the creative stuff is kind of I guess I've always operated on that level, so I don't really see, or on that wavelength like you were mentioning, but like back then when I had to do a lot of bikes, I had to force myself into creativity, and sometimes I wasn't really happy with where I was. And now, older, a little bit more money to paint things, so you have a little bit more control over your time. I can sit down and, all right, tonight or today I'm going to draw. And if I can't come up with a design today, then it's not happening today. I'm not going to I'm not going to pick something I'm not happy with. Like my last road glide, I probably drew 15 to 20 different sketches of paint jobs over the course of about a month.
Dang. And
before I was like, this is it. And honestly, there's probably 8 out of that 15 bangers. Yeah. I could probably sell those paint jobs to, people that don't necessarily, they have the skill to do it, but not the creative idea to create it. You know what I'm saying? And same thing. I'm in this boat right now. I was telling you about the ST, where I haven't seen a paint job on one yet. Not saying there hasn't been a good paint job. I haven't seen a paint job that really accentuated the lines of the fairing yet. Yeah. They really just, just wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was hoping somebody would have done that for Daytona to kind of make my job easier, because all you're looking for is like a flow, not necessarily copying the line, just a flow. How do you bring lines across this to extenuate it and then flow it into the tank and the bag, so where it has like this really nice vibe. I hate using that word, vibe.
Yeah. As a painter, what was your take on the El Diablo?
I think that if for someone that, dealing with individuals to create something like a custom paint shop or even custom build shops, that's a gamble all the time. There's other, like I'm a pretty good gamble. I stay true to my word. I don't change my prices in the middle of the build or the paint job.
Yeah.
I've weeded out all those little bad things about being a custom painter that happens, right? But that's why I charge so much, because I have figured it out, right? If you want to take a chance on the guy that's half my price, you could have to deal with all that shit, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the ST, that El Diablo kind of gave people a financeable option to see what it's like to have customization,
Yeah.
In a sense, like custom paint is the most visible thing on your bike, and it's also probably the most expensive thing you can have done to your bike, and it's probably the most stressful thing because, like I said, what I just mentioned, right? And I think that bike kind of lent itself to give people the option to get on something really badass that way. Now, as a caveat, or like a play devil's advocate to that, if you're going to pay an extra $7,500 for a paint job on a bike like that, then you might as well have something done custom, because that's probably around where a lot of the custom shops are going to be price-wise on a bike like that.
Yeah.
So, we joked with one of our buddies in Dallas when they kind of came out. He had picked one up. He was so stoked. And we love him. We're just giving him a hard time. And there was another ST there, another Diablo. And we were like, whoa, hey, go check the number to make sure that one's yours. Make sure that you get on the right one, and just all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And
that's a very interesting perspective, and I think one that could only be had by someone in your line of work.
Well, it's the motorcycle experience. Like if you, and I'm sure that you guys can attest to this, like you want to make the buying experience of buying a bike the most pleasant, the most, I tell you this all the time. When I go buy a car, I just know I'm getting fucked. I mean, I might not be, but I just feel like I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to feel like that when you buy something that's a passion-based purchase, right?
Yeah.
You're going to buy this bike because of all these things you want to experience on it. It's, maybe it's a commuter. Maybe it's just like to go stack some memories with your friends or your family over the summer. Well, you want to make that buying experience something that they're looking to do it again after they've, had this for X amount of years, added the miles to it. They want to get a nice, fresh bike. And the same thing happens in the custom side of things, right? When you customize a bike, there's an experience to be had, you know, and we kind of touched on this last night with Arch about how, like, that time, there's people out there that will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to have vehicles, motorcycles built, and then they never even ride them because they have so much fun being involved in the process of painting or having these things built. And
so true. I've got customers that do that. They buy a new bike, they do a bunch of stuff to it, and they hardly ride it, and they sell it and start over again.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, you know, there's people out there talking shit about those guys, like, oh, they don't even ride it. I'm like, well, guess what? He just paid a lot of bills in this place. He just kept a lot of people's lights on, and so, you know, and somebody, when he sells that bike, is going to get a really badass bike at probably somewhat of a discount. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, people, they're entitled to enjoy the vehicle how they want to enjoy it.
Yeah,
you know, and if it's not logging, you know, 10,000 miles every year, who cares? You know, it's his money, it's his vehicle, it's his dream, it's the way he's enjoying it. So more power to him.
Yeah, and I would 100% say that I have been a hypocrite in that place before. I have had very strong feelings about what people should do with their money and their bikes until I realized how stupid that sounds to say what somebody should do with their money and their bikes, right? Yeah. Money and their time, right? So it took me a while, you know, growing up and getting a little bit wiser to realize that, like, you know, being mad because somebody doesn't do what I do on the bike was more of a validation for myself than it was anything else. Like, I wanted them to do what I do so that I felt better about what I was doing. You know what I mean?
Well, and you know what? Does that mean that, like, I'll never razz someone for, you know, showing up after they trailered their bike? Yeah. Sure, you know, I'll still do that, you know. I very much share the sentiment with you where, you know, I grew up on the playground playing basketball, you know, and I'm a trash talker too. And so I've heard you say that in your podcast before. And so, you know, some playful trash talk, I think, never hurt anybody, you know, but at the same time, we enjoy our bikes in different ways.
Yeah. And right now it's like, you know, after Daytona, there was a handful of, like, just people being negative, being catty online, you know, because of the bikes that were winning in the performance, air quotes, areas, you know, had a lot of money done to them, you know, and they're like, oh, well, this is the new big wheel bagger, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Winning in where? Where did you say?
Like a Daytona, like at the bike shows, like the hardcore cycles and hangover shows and all those kind of things. And it's like, you know, it's like that. If someone spends, you know, $100,000 building a bike, no matter what genre of bike it is or scene it's in, like, that used to be celebrated. Like, that's fucking cool that people are doing stuff like that. Not like, you know, hated on because you can't afford it or you can't, you know, whatever, you know, said, like, you know, mental health issue you have towards this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's weird, man.
Yeah.
And I feel like the internet's just, I guess it's that like, comment, subscribe mentality where you need them to comment to create more engagement when realistically you don't fucking care what they're saying. At least I know that's my words, not your words. I don't want to blow up your spot on the YouTube.
Well, no, I mean, to a certain extent, you're right. I think that's the beauty and the downfall of the internet, right? You know, the fact that people are anonymous and they feel like they can say whatever they want. You know, you're always going to get people's truthful opinion, which is the positive of it. You know, if someone thinks that my stuff sucks or that I could do something better, or, you know, I just shot a video recently on the new Sportster Special, or the Nightster Special, excuse me, that was a new model launch in the 23 model year. And everyone was giving me crap. Oh, good thing you didn't shoot the left side of the bike, because on the left side of the Rev Max, that's where you got all the wiring and the water piping and things like that. And it's not nearly as good looking as the right side of the bike. So, did I say the right side of the bike beginning with? The left side of the bike is the one that's less appealing by far. And so, you know what? I'm glad that people said, you know, called me out that I wasn't shooting the left side of the bike. That's clearly the uglier side. Because you know what? Next Rev Max video, I'm going to shoot the hell out of the left side and be like, yo, dude, I'm not afraid to show off every inch of this bike, because that's what I'm all about. I'm all about transparency, telling you exactly what this thing is. I don't hide anything or apologize for anything that Harley Davidson does, because at the end of the day, they make the best American cruisers, period. And so, anyways, I guess that's a tangent, but going back to what I was saying, I like the fact that people will just tell you exactly how they feel. But at the same time, are they those idiots that, you know, say the stupid, the dumb stuff that just, you know, water off a duck's back? Sure, there's plenty of that as well.
Yeah, I would say that, like, if someone's giving you critiques, like because they actually consume the content and they have something
Yeah.
to say about it. That's that's valuable.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have to take that with a little bit different. You have to consume that a little bit differently than someone just saying stupid,
Right.
gross. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like these dumb things.
Barf emoji, whatever.
Yeah, or they start getting political and shit like that. But
Yeah.
so I think that me and you stand as brothers in arms against the Indian movement.
Absolutely.
Are you willing to talk about any of that?
100%.
So what's your take on it? What's your take on their push coming into the Harley, or I guess the revamp coming back into this space, and whatnot? Like what do you got? I know you got some shit.
Always, man. I'm Indian public enemy number one, actually, and all it took was one video, and I've just gotten this reputation for like the Indian hater. Here's the deal. At the end of the day, I think anybody that rides a motorcycle gets on two wheels. I'm going to embrace you and welcome you in.
Yeah.
The problem that I have specifically about Polaris, or AKA Indian motorcycles, is back when they had Victory, it was just every bike they came out with was you could identify what bike they were copying of Harley Davidson's easily. I think anybody could say that. And then when they bought the Indian name, they bought a badge that they felt like would sell better, for marketing purposes, which is true. Indian is a more identifiable motorcycle brand, but they just continued their same formula of just copying Harley Davidson. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like me saying that, and they can probably bring up, oh, well, what do you consider a copy? Maybe Harley Davidson copied the GS when they made the Pan America. Honda has a fixed fairing bike too. Did they copy the Road Glide too? No. Honda has unique styling characteristics that are unique to Honda. BMW has unique styling characteristics and engines that are unique to BMW, the opposing twin. If you look at Indian, they specifically are targeting certain models of Harley Davidsons and copying those models and trying to recreate them with the same image that Harley Davidson creates them in, and in the same culture that Harley Davidson has cultivated. Mm-hmm. Perfect example, the Dyna, the new Sport Chief. Who did they copy? The Dyna scene, the Dyna Bro scene, 100%. And I don't even think they would deny that if you asked the Indian guys that exactly what they were going for. But you know what? I say these things and I use competitive language and trash talking the same way I would if I was at a Lakers game and we were playing the Celtics. It's all in good fun. It's all just in the spirit of competition. Are they copiers? 100%. Harley Davidson sets the bar. They're the ones that are creating things like the Lowrider S, the Lowrider ST, and they're the ones. And the riders within the Harley Davidson world and the Harley Davidson community are the ones that are creating the culture around these bikes as well, which now Indian is trying to either buy their way in with guys like Hart, Kerry Hart, and Twitch. I think just joined their team or whatever. They're trying to buy their way in, or they're trying to, mimic Harley Davidson's style and culture to, take away some of the market share. Which, great. If that's the way you want to do business, cool. But guess what? I'm going to call you out. On the playground when you showed up to school the next day because you saw someone was wearing a certain pair of shoes and you bought the same shoes, you're getting called out, dude.
Yeah.
And so I got no problem calling people out.
Yeah. I was definitely, I still am. I'm not an Indian fan at all, but I got friends that took to them, made really cool bikes out of them, and then started to build a culture around it too. But to agree with you, it's all out of the culture that Harley had already created, right?
Right.
And so I do love those guys a lot, and I think they build badass bike. They make Indians less Indian, in my opinion, and more Harley.
Right.
But yeah, it's it's a crazy place, and it's really weird now. Or over the last couple of months or a year or so, especially after the bagger racing thing, how much more people kind of seem like they just kind of jumped bandwagons. Like they're still riding a Harley, but they're like, oh, Indian's killing it now, and blah blah blah. But it's like you can still go ride anywhere, and you don't see that many Indians out there. You don't, and that's so funny because a lot of these guys that will like jump on the comment section and like say, "Oh, Indian, they're Harley needs to catch up." They have a Harley in the garage, and it's like, come on, guys, like, and it's definite. Like I said, the competition that it brings, it definitely forces, Harley to be more proactive with their drops every year. And I'm confident in it. The ST is put it like this, and this kind of goes into your what you're saying. When's Indian going to drop their ST comparison bike? Right now, the ST's out. It's selling like hotcakes. It has been for a year now. You're seeing more of them. They're going to be a very dominant bike in the industry, and it's a great option for people that want to get up to another bike with touring and a little bit more space for commuting.
Just good all-around bike from just a bunch of different angles.
So are they going to create that? What would you call that one that the Indian just came out with?
The Sport Chief.
Is the Sport Chief going to come out with a new fairing and a little bit of bag setup and give them all this kind of
100%. I would bet my life on it.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean it's too good of a Harley for Indian not to copy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
I mean, really the only bike that they've made that was truly theirs was the FTR.
Yeah.
Which is that hybrid dirt scrambler type of bike.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's coming for sure.
Yeah, it is. Love you, Kyle. Not talking shit about you. You're my boy.
Yeah, you know what? That's people. When I talk like this, people get offended that ride Indians. You know what? I love all riders. It's just like, again, going back to the sports analogy. Just because I'm not rooting for the team that you grew up with and you like doesn't mean I'm hating on you. I'm hating on the company that I think it's pathetic. Honestly, yeah. It's just like build something that's uniquely yours.
Yeah.
Like every other company, like BMW, the R18. Dude, that was a classic cruiser that they built to appeal to the cruiser crowd that had the opposing twin. They built it in BMW's way, and you look at it, and it's like, yes, that's a cruiser, but they didn't directly pick a model out of Harley Davidson's lineup and try to copy everything about it and the culture behind it and the attitude behind it and everything else, And so there's a right way to get into certain segments, and there's kind of the cheap knockoff way, and Indian is the knockoff.
It is true, because when Indian first dropped the Challenger, they were putting it in the hands of everybody that was kind of in our scene, our eight, like this whatnot. And it seems like when BMW was putting that bike out, they just kind of tapped into the YouTubers, the people on YouTube that did a lot of that ride and do all this stuff. There's a lot of the YouTube motorcycle things that are kind of the big guys, like your Shade Trees and Her Two Wheels and all this stuff. They seem more open-minded to different bikes, like, different styles of bikes and whatnot, as opposed to
more power to them.
Yeah, as opposed to someone like me who's heavily hanging out in this certain scene within motorcycling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you have your taste. You have your preferences. Yeah. I mean, Shade Tree Surgeon was here about a month ago, and I was talking to him, and that guy loves everything. I mean, he can
gold wings,
everything. And it's funny because he said kind of the same thing. He says, "Hey, I appreciate these manufacturers that stay true to their heritage when they make modern day bikes. They stick to their engine architecture that they're known for, and they stick to like the lines and the style that they're known for. I mean, they don't take a street glide fairing and make an identical copy of it twice. It's just like." We didn't get on the Indian tangent with Shade Tree, but anyways, yeah. I mean, I love a lot of different brands too. I have a KTM downstairs right now. I grew up riding Honda dirt bikes. My dad's super into scooters, as funny as that may be, and so it's not that I'm like so blindly loyal to Harley Davidson that I can't appreciate other motorcycles. My uncle has a GS. I've ridden quite a bit as well. And so it's just the way that Indian does it that I just think is just kind of pathetic.
We can end on that note, man.
All right.
Well, hey, Matt, thank you. Tell them where to find you on YouTube and all that good stuff.
Yeah, YouTube is just Matt Laidlaw on YouTube. And then my Instagram is just Matt_Laidlaw.
Hell yeah. They probably already follow you, but I'm just in case.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks for this, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know that I did, and I hope that you guys are joining our Patreon to get more unreleased content and enter for a chance to win a Simpson motorcycle helmet. Yes, every month this year, we're giving away a Simpson motorcycle helmet to one of our patrons on our tier system. So check it out. You can also get unreleased content on there and know that you're supporting a podcast that you really love. Thank you. Also, don't forget to check out our sponsors. A lot of great opportunities for you to get cool stuff for you and your motorcycle, and support this podcast while you're doing it. I really do hope you guys enjoy these episodes. I enjoy doing them, and I can't wait to record some more out here in California. If you guys are going to Born Free, I'll be out there in the Bassani booth, along with possibly the Arlen Ness and Simpson booth, and would love to meet some of you guys. So come up and say what's up, and we'll see you guys on the next podcast. Have a good one. Peace.